What's up, Moto Buddies? Mike here from Taco Moto Co. I know I say this all the time, and these are all our babies. Like, every bike that we put out is really just this very special experience for us in terms of like the way that the bike comes together, the personalization that a rider is able to invest in his bike. When we do these, you know, there's upfront dialogue, conversation that happens where the things that are spec'd out for each bike are unique to that rider. And this is one of those that I think kind of indicates all the personalization that happens on one of our Tacomoto builds and how the bike ends up being a really special creation for that rider. This is a 25 350 EXCF, and I often say that 350 is the single best all-around motorcycle made. There are exceptions and a lot of room for argument, and I'm happy to have those debates, but I just go back to the fact that I think the 350 size machine just is such a good platform to base off of for almost any use. So we have 350 here, and you can see right away that there are just some very unique and very special things going on with this. As we go through, we'll talk about the way that this rider made certain choices and how those choices end up impacting the way this bike can be used and its adaptability and how cross-adaptable it is. Another thing that happens with a Tacomoto build is we're really trying to help a rider create a machine that is sort of like this omni-use platform. Do you want to take it to the motocross track? Check. Do you want to ride BDRs with it? Check. Do you want to go hit some forest trails? Check. Open desert, Baja, whatever it is, we want to have a machine that will allow the rider to have unlimited possibilities. And this is a great example of a bike that will let this rider virtually do anything he wants to in any type of use and for as long as he wants. And you'll see there's some long range special things in here. That means he can go extended amounts of time in the saddle and between maintenance intervals because of the things that he's done to set this up. So if we start at the front wheel, you'll see that he's got the Warp 9 Elites. So these are the heavy duty rims, heavy duty spokes, nipples. Everything about this is just absolute ultimate durability. And then STR on the carbon fiber front brake, rotor guard, TM Design Works on the lugs, and then a Warp 9 on the wheel lock. And then this is all balanced out. And then I think he's running, yeah, so you'll see here, this was where the air stem would be. He's got moose in here, probably moose balls. And this is as far as the tire size go, this is the 9100. So this would be considered like the fatty size. And that's just a lot of beef on the ground, so a lot of great traction. Side control, really good. This tire has good rock absorbing characteristics, and because it's that fatty size, it's gonna be a good comfortable tire for all types of terrain, all types of environments. You'll see up here he's got the Dingo guards. These are extruded plastic guards, and they're as durable as you can get. He's got the uppers and lowers. And then notice here that the brake cable and speedo line are configured in such a way that it takes the mounting and moves it here, and it anchors all this hose and all that wiring up there, so you don't have that hose slapping around and knocking things off your dashboard. And so that's just a rally configuration. Notice here, I guess the biggest thing to take a look at is the fact that we've got the rally tower. So this is the Taco tower made by Yencro, and it's got the Dynamics dual lights. Those are quad element lights, so there's 8 individual elements, and that's configured with high, low. And the low is a nice wide flat beam. And so while it's not officially DOT legal, none of the aftermarket lights are DOT legal or certified with the vehicle. You know, when you get DOT certification, that includes the specific machine and the specific light together for certification. So this does not meet that, obviously, whenever you put an aftermarket product on a vehicle, and if it wasn't configured originally, may not meet that certification. However, this has a wide flat, and so it is road safe. Really great for oncoming cars if you're going to take a bike and do a lot of highway and oncoming traffic, experience some of that. This is a great way to do that. And then that top light is a really far throw, nice beam. It's a good out and flat. So the headlight configuration on this provides a ton of light, and it's set up so that you get off, low, and high. And then notice that the turn signals here, these are the Taco Flex, and those have a constant on, white on feature, and then when they blink, they cascade out from the from the inner part to the outer part. They just sort of like do a little wave cascade, and that's got a cool effect. Fork wraps are Canyon dancers on these little fork guards, or not guards, what am I trying to say? These are loops, tie down loops. So because he's got the Mako 360 on here, and any type of rubber mounted bar mounting system where you have dampers, you don't want to wrench down on your bars. If you're going to transport your bike in the back of a truck or something, a trailer, you don't want to throw a loop around here and then wrench down. The other thing that happens when you get in a dual sport configuration, so I know I'm jumping around, but let's tie a few of these things together and give it purpose. This bike has, look, there's a lot going on up here in this cockpit, so let's break this down a little bit. Obviously we have headlight control, off, low, high, horn, turn signal, all that. Mirror, perch, clutch, it's all combined between the clutch, perch, and then the mirror, that's all in one. And then you've got this recluse left-hand brake lever system. And so what this allows you to do is to control the rear brake with your hands like a mountain bike. And this recluse system offers absolute finesse over that rear brake. You can just feather into it, you can single finger it, and instead of like stabbing at the rear brake with your toe, your big foot, you can feather into it with your hand and have a lot of good accuracy over the rear. And so if you're riding technical, this is great. Or if you're the type of rider that just has challenge mastering that rear brake, there's a ton of riders I talk to all the time who just end up locking up the rear wheel, or they tend maybe not to use the rear brake, and they do a lot of front heavy braking, and then they experience some washouts and some low sides, and they just have a really challenging time trying to put all that. There's some physicality to it. There's some real technical physical skill that needs to be learned and mastered, and so some of us just have a tough time of that. So this is a solution for that. It allows you to have hand control just like a mountain bike. So that takes up some space here. You've got the Getty CU map switch. So where are you going to throw like a soft loop or a bar strap around here? Really tough. Not going to be able to probably do that. So these Canyon dancers are an ideal solution for no room on the bars, rubber system, and we just think they're great. So that's what's going on there. While we're here, we'll stay up at the Scott stabilizer. That is a real game changer in terms of safety and stability, confidence. It's also a energy maximizer, because some of that front end deflection, that energy is, instead of going into your body where you have to do physical correction, it's being dampened out here by the stabilizer. So that promotes a lot of rider comfort and sustainability in terms of like energy management. Bulletproof on the levers here. This bar guard system is made by Reflex. One of the reasons why I really like a Reflex is it's got a steel belted cable. You can just get in there enough to see that it's hidden underneath these little collars. And so any bit of the bars, now the Pro Taper, Husky does a good job, and they put on Pro Taper Evo bars. Those bars have some nice deflection to them, some softness to them. And so your bar guard system, because it has this little cable here, it imparts, or it doesn't impart, stiffness to it. It allows that to flex a little bit. And so that's a nice comfort feature as well. We've also got OD Road grips, which are squishy and a nice thick rubber to them. And then inside of here, there is a brass insert threaded that it's the Fast Flex vibration damping rod that goes all the way in there, and then this bolts and screws into that. So it's just anchored really well, really strong, with some flexibility and vibration damping. So that's just kind of like a magical setup here. These are very light. There's a lot to like about that. They come in two different types of mounts. You can, if you've got like a 360 here, this doesn't play well with that in terms of like an over clamp, and so you do a C-clamp situation here where it goes around the bar. If you had a more traditional type of bar mount system, then this comes in a version where the 4 bolts here that are the anchor to the bars, it'd really be 2 bolts, but though this has that top bar clamp, and then the other side has the other top bar clamp. And so there's just 2 different ways that you can have that. This is what you do if you have a 360 setup. We didn't do, now tacobout makes a top plate that goes over the top of this. If you didn't have a rally tower, so you wouldn't have all of this space and capability for mounting screens, GPSs, phones, and so on, you could put our top plate on top of here and have an amps pattern whole mount system for that. We didn't do that here because we have the tower. So the tower gives you a spot here. Now, The owner, the rider here, did not opt to do anything in terms of mounting a screen here right now. He's gonna have a phone up here. This is a Peak Designs. So this is powered. This is all powered. You see the cord here go in. This is powered off the bike, and then this is a self-powered. So it's a proximity charging. So he'll snap his phone in here. He'll have a mating case with the adapter, the other side adapter, Peak Designs, on his phone, and he'll snap that in there, and then it's secured. It's got some rubber damping here, and then it is charging. That's a great configuration. This is what I use on my personal bike. People ask often what I use on my bikes in terms of primary GPS. Anymore, I'm using this exact device, this exact configuration, and then I am running like an Onyx GPS map on an Android phone. I don't use a phone. Like my daily phone, the phone in fact that I'm filming this video on, I don't use that on my bars. There's too much at stake. It's too expensive, and then what if there's a crash? What if it flies off and I lose my primary communication device? So I don't risk that. So I use just like a rugged Android construction worker type phone with no SIM card, and I preload on Wi-Fi, Onyx, and the different map applications, and I use that. Suspension has been redone, revalved, resprung. We've got the air bleeders here. What do you see that I'm missing here in terms of like cockpit area? That might be it. Maybe we'll talk about the double take mirrors. This is their version of the updated arm, no longer RAM. They've got their own internal, their own arm system, and it is a upgrade over the RAM. It's really cool. And then they got the lollipop mirrors here for really good visibility. So why would you pick a lollipop mirror versus, say, the Highway Dirt Bikes bar system has a little integrated mirror that tips out? So why go with this? The advantage of this is if you're broad-shouldered, you see how long this arm is. This is gonna go around your body. So as you sit here on the bike, you don't block the mirrors. If you have shorter mirrors, stubby mirrors, then you might need to like move yourself, reposition your body in such a way that you can see behind yourself. The longer the arm, the better the visibility. You also, as far as that goes, have a better margin of safety, and some riders will not ride with two mirrors in that instance. They'll just use a single. They use typically a left. You want ultimate safety, you'll use left and right, but if you just want, say, minimalist, you use a left only. And then this allows you to loosen the arm, and when you get into some technical stuff, you can just take that mirror, tuck it in, tuck it out of the way, and you see that it's no longer a risk of getting hit on branches or trees, etc. And some riders will even just take those mirrors off if you want, throw them in your backpack, completely get rid of them. Having the tip-in, tip-out mirrors, that's really convenient because if you get into technical stuff, you can just slide the mirror back in. The disadvantage is because it's out here at the far end of the bars, it has a tendency to vibrate in the wind, vibrate from the bars, and so visibility is not anywhere near as good as it would be if you had a dedicated mirror like that. Some riders say, well, I just turn my head around and look and see what's going on behind me. So all kinds of choices, all kinds of reasons to pick one thing over the other, but that's an overview of the mirror situation. The Acerbis, this tank, oh, I never remember. I think this is the 3.9. I'll see if I can put that in the notes. Plastics have been changed out. These are the UFO plastics out of Italy, and then the graphics kit is a Tacomoto in-house design. Very slick, minimalist, not a lot of fuss to it. I think it looks really good. It's a nice classy look. Moving back, taking a look at some other stuff. We have a Golan fuel filter here that replaces the inline cone filter. This is the SAE plug. This is part of the Tacomoto charging system, the power distribution system. So if we pop the air box here, you'll see that up in here we have our this is triple fused, and then there's a relay, which you're not going to be able to see, and there's a starting capacitor, which you can barely see over there. That's that. I don't know if you can see that, but all of this electronic package is part of the Tacomoto wiring harness, and then that provides up here behind the headlight mask dual switched power outlet taps. One is constant hot, and then one is engine hot. And the rider can configure any of those accessories, add or remove accessories, and then configure them with either of those two power options. We move the horn, we relocate that down here into the engine case area to free up airflow, and then allow the the tank to be removed easier, not have to fuss with a horn and not have to deal with that when you're putting the tank on and off. And then our system has an engine ground. We ground the engine, we ground the chassis, we add extra electrical capabilities that the OEM bike did not have. Down here looking at the shift lever, that's the Bulletproof Designs, and it's a billet, super beefy, stout, that's great. Dirt tricks on this dome washer, that's hardened steel, it's tool steel instead of mild steel, and that's kind of like a lifetime. Instead of having to replace your stock dome washer and potentially have oil seal leaks and failures, this thing puts enough preload on it that it really, for us anyway, we find it's kind of like a lifetime upgrade item. Change it once and it lasts the life of the bike. You'll notice the recluse clutch. We'll take a look at that on the other side in just a minute. We'll talk about settings too. I'll try to remember that. Tacobout oil filter here. This is static magnetic filter. And so that filter with a high grade ester PAO based Group 5 oil like Modal 7100 or Maxima Pro Plus 4 with running a, so this is the twin air filter with the filter skin and a PC Racing base gasket. We are getting really on average 50 to 70 hour oil changes on BDR type road conditions running in clean air. And so when you're going out doing extended interval rides, you can do that. We send a lot of oil samples in. They all come back clean and good. We've yet to have really any issues with running oil service intervals at those lengths when you need to. Very safe to do. The foot pegs, promotability, these are the Evo Airs, or Extend Air rather, and they have that safety feature ankle saver back there in the rear. Molecule on the skid plate. I was kind of scanning through. Acerbis on the swing arm guards. These are a nice light duty guard to give you some nice aesthetics, but also to protect scratch resistance and puncture resistance on there. Bulletproof Designs for this axle block here, and then really nice look in terms of the rear wheel. Let's talk about the whole rear package. So 130 size tire. This is the Motaz Tractionator IT intermediate terrain. The front is the ST soft terrain. We like a softer front tire and a little bit harder rear. That's a great combination. And then this is the 130 size, super beefy, a lot of sidewall, a lot of top profile, just a great all-around tire, quiet, great traction, really good cornering, good drive. We think it's a great tire. The only wear is the only thing I think it yields. It is not a super long lasting tire. You'll probably get 1,500 miles out of this tire. You could stretch it out. We've heard of riders getting 2,000 out of it. That is maybe on the high side. And on the low side, you can burn any tire out in 500 miles if you're really after it. But I think you plan on 1,000 to 1,500 miles on this tire. And I've had this exact tire, this same tire combination in Baja for week-long trips, and still have plenty of ride life left at the end of the trip. So you can ride this in some of those longer duration, extreme type rides and not have to worry too much about it. So this is the Warp 9 Elite Series rim with Cush. So this is a Cush hub. So there's rubber dampers in there. And then this is the Dirt Tricks Ironman sprocket with the black bolts. I think the whole look of this bike just is super clean. A lot of black, blue. I think the rider did a great job making great selections aesthetically and then performance-wise as well. And both front wheels are balanced and they have moose in them, like Grady talked about. Back here on the rear end, this is the Tidy Tail. So that's a single unit light with turn, brake, and run all together, and then the enduro plate, so there's flexibility to the license plate if the bike falls over. I really like the look, kind of that old school Yamaha look on the rotors. I just think that as a nice aesthetic touch. Now on the exhaust, we talked about the Get ECU, and so that's paired with the Pro Motorability end cap and an ultrasound insert for the money. #1 exhaust right here. KTM does a good job with their mufflers. You know, their engineers went to college. They know a thing or two about a thing or two. And so there's really no, I have no downside or no ding against an OEM KTM product, Austrian dirt bike muffler. Now the end cap is where things get tricky because there are a few different iterations based on the particular bike that you have. And so if you have one of the enduro bikes, it's very likely going to be sound restricted and then airflow restricted. And so this is a nice way to convert that to an off-road situation. And so you've got good airflow. The ultra silent really knocks down the sound considerably, and then it takes that those dBs and it sends it back, and so there is a damping effect as that sound, as those sound pulses, sound waves go into the terrain, and also adds to the quiet effect. So this is just a great configuration for the money. It's an absolute winner. Notice as you follow up. So anyway, the Get ECU paired with this is a solid combination. For the money, I think you can't beat it. Now, obviously there are other muffler choices out there that offer benefits like weight savings and some performance gains as well. But I think for the money, this is the way to go. And you can take that to the bank, right? So looking up here, we see that you've got this is the heat shield. So we wrap the muffler here, the header pipe, as it goes by the shock. So what we're looking to do is to reduce the heat loading that goes right into the oil chamber. So here is your exhaust pipe, and here is your oil chamber for your canister for your shock. And that heat goes right in there, goes into the shock. And the shock is already running really hot anyway, just through normal riding. And so we have seen up to about 225, 250 degree reduction in temperature that is not going into that shock because of it. And here you see there's an X-trig, that's the adjuster. So you take an 8mm and you stick it in here, and then very easily, without having to remove anything, you can adjust your shock preload. So if you are gonna load this bike up with some Moscow bags and go do some overlanding, you can change that preload setting without any drama, super easy. We talked about the Recluse left-hand brake system. So how that works is the master cylinder sends its fluid into here. And so now this bike operates with 2 master cylinders. So there's a foot lever. Obviously the foot lever works in the traditional manner. That foot lever pressurizes this hose, which goes down here to the caliper. You have a second master up top, which pressurizes the fluid and sends it through. So you can pressurize the fluid through either one of those channels. There's no back feeding. That is to say, if you press one, it doesn't affect anything about the other one, and you can use either one at any time. You can even use them simultaneously if you wanted. Why would you do that? But you can, because these are 2 different hydraulic channels that blend and merge here within the fluid chamber on the rear master cylinder. Very clever, great system, fabulous performance. The only real downsides, I think, to it are the fact that you have to crack into your system in terms of you're exposing your hydraulic system, and so you're gonna have to bleed the left-hand brake system, and that can be a little bit tricky, and so there's some work there, and then fine-tuning, so adjusting your levers, your foot, and then your hand levers so that they just all hit where you like. It's a little complicated. I'm not gonna lie, it's not the easiest system to put in, but if you're marginally talented as a DIY mechanic, you'll be able to get it taken care of or have a shop put it in for you. There's other rear brake systems, like the aux brake is one that comes to mind, and that has a very clever configuration where they've got a little micro master cylinder down here that operates off your hand lever, and then that expands the banjo bolt here, which then puts pressure. So it's not really like a 2-channel hydraulic system. It's a single channel hydraulic system, but with an auxiliary slaves or master cylinder that operates the plunger here, the push rod. That's a video. I should probably do a video and talk about that. Put that on the list. So the lever here is a Bulletproof Designs. Again, it's a billet lever with an oversized, what do you call that? The foot pad, I guess, or the tip. We talked about the foot pegs. Skid plate has an integrated built-in linkage guard down here. And then this shock, obviously we talked about the suspension's all been redone and gone through with tacobout settings and our configuration. So the Recluse clutch, let's talk about that. This is the EXP 4.0 latest generation Recluse, and we do a different configuration for our springs on a 350 than we do for a 450 500. We put in the blue springs, so these are all blue. And if you want to email us, we have different tuning configurations that we do on the 350 versus the 500, and so I won't go down the rabbit hole of talking about that here. But if you have questions about your Recluse and your setup, and if you would want to know how to set those up differently based on the size of bike you have, we can help you with that. Shoot us an email. For that, we talked about the engine oil. If you look in there, you'll see red oil. That's the Motul 7100 that we put in our bikes. So this bike, on all our bikes, all our built bikes, they're broken in on the dyno, and then afterwards we do before and after power numbers, and then we change the oil. And so these bikes, as they're delivered to the riders, are ready to go. The rider can immediately head out and do a ride. And I think we've talked about this. We've had riders who pick up their bikes and they'll fly in and throw their bags on and head home, or head out on a BDR, or head out across Nevada or Utah, Arizona, or California. That happens. So these bikes need nothing. They leave the shop ready to go. We've got a little heat shield here over this top radiator hose, P3 for the header guard. That's a cool thing. On the tower, you'll see that we relocate the stock speedo. We want that to stay with the bike. We want the stock hours to be maintained. The check engine lights here. There's information that's logged, your hours, your miles. We want that to stay with the bike, so we don't remove it, we leave it, but we get it way out of the way. If you needed to, and you need to see your hours or see if the check engine light is on, you can just obviously look over and check that out. The key has been relocated here. We have a USB charger up here that's powered off the signal from the engine. And then here's your turn signal indicator. All of that integrates and ties up really well. These bikes are a work of art. I just get a lot of joy taking a look at these machines and then knowing how the riders are going to go out and use them. Maybe we finish up here. So this is a XL seat. This is the extra wide seat. Underneath there is an anti-gravity 8-cell battery. The Get ECU system is in there as well. I won't bother to pull up the seat. We'll wrap this up. If you have any questions about this bike, if you have any questions about your bike, if you want to build a bike, if you want us to build a bike for you here at our Vegas shop, and you want to come pick it up, this rider is going to come pick this bike up here in Las Vegas and then take it out. And I think he's going to go do some riding in the West. If you want us to ship a bike, we have great relationships with shippers and we can get it out to you. If you want to have us spec out a bike just like this, drop everything you need and put it in a box and ship it to you, and you'll do it in your own garage, we can work that out as well. So we want to be flexible. We want to help you get on the trail and stay on the trail. So if you have any questions about anything bike related, hit us up in the comments, call us, send us an email, like, subscribe, go out, get some adventure.